Sounds great. Okay. Before we get started, let's introduce everyone on this meeting. Sandy Brock. When I call your name, please confirm that you can hear me and verify that you are present. And I'm going to start with the commissioners. Alicia. Alicia?
I'm here. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Okay, and John.
Here, and I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Perfect.
Betsy.
Here.
Thank you. And Patrick.
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Just fine. Thank you. We'll go with staff. Leah, who is our agent.
I'm here and I can hear you.
Thank you. And then our new conservation assistant, Jan.
Hi, I'm here and I can hear you.
Thank you. I'll go through the speakers, and really what we're just trying to do is make sure that you can hear all of us and that we can hear you. So for the speakers, for the Fitzpatrick Road Culvert is, and I apologize ahead of time if I mess up anyone's name or mispronounce it, Jody Tronfio.
Here, present. You said it beautifully. Thank you.
Oh, I tried. That's all I can say. And then I know this one's going to be a challenge. Brian Zazurko.
You did it.
Not too bad, not too bad. But yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Paul Canoyer.
I don't think he's hopping on tonight.
He's not okay.
Some people take vacations.
Sometimes, yes. Kevin Dondrade.
He won't be attending either.
Okay. And how about Matthew Perry? Is he?
Yep, I got you. Can hear you.
Great, thank you. For 19 George Hill Road is Peter Engel.
Actually, Chris McClure, McClure Engineering.
Oh, okay. Are you the only one here talking to 19 George Hill Road?
I am.
Okay, great. Okay, so this open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely via Zoom pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order as extended on June 15th, 2021, with the governor's signing of the Senate Bill number 2475 superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law. Access information for the public has been provided on the town website. Please note that the meeting is being recorded. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when not speaking. As chair, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. Please note that you will not have screen sharing privileges, but staff can display any visuals per your cue. After speakers conclude their remarks, I will invite each commissioner by name to provide any comments, questions, or motions. After the commissioners have spoken, I will allow public comment typed by participants in the chat feature. Anything typed in the chat feature needs to be addressed to everyone, not any sole individual. Public comments will be followed by commission and applicant responses. Finally, each vote will be conducted by a roll call vote. Seeing none and seeing that at 7:06, action items. Anything in particular to take first, Leah?
You can just go down the list. It's fine.
All right, great. Starting with the meetings for July 13th. Hope everyone was able to take a look at them. I have no comments. If anyone has comments, please let us know. If no one does, can I have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the July meeting.
I second the motion.
All right, thank you, Betsy. We have a motion and a second. I will do a roll call vote, and I apologize because I'm going to go down based upon who I see. So Betsy?
Yep, I approve.
Patrick?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Alicia?
Yes.
And I am also a yes, it carries. I am going to take one moment. I need to change up the way I see everyone. Okay. Request for certificate of compliance for 51 Potter Hill Road. Leah, any information on this?
So this was a single family house that had to do a septic replacement. I worked with the homeowners on a few outstanding conditions they had. They have since met them all. So I recommend issuance of the certificate of compliance.
Sounds great. If there's no comments or questions from the commissioners, I will do a roll call vote. And let's see where everyone is. Patrick, you seem to be on the upper location of my screen. So Patrick,
Do you need a motion?
yes. I'm sorry, I skipped that part.
I'll motion to issue the certificate of compliance.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Roll call vote. Patrick,
Yes.
Betsy,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
John.
Yes.
I am also a yes. It carries actually unanimously. Request for a minor modification for 114 Merriam Road.
We actually have Carl here. If you want, I can have him speak to this, or I can give my summary. He's the one that raised his hand and spoke in the chat.
Okay, why don't you do that? And yes, here's my cat making his presence known. Don't worry, he won't be here for long.
Good evening, can you hear me?
Yes.
Carl Holtzman, Twin Engineering. So we have a request for a minor modification to a lot. It's 114 Merriam Road, Lot C. It was part of a 3-lot subdivision with a common driveway. The commission saw lots A and B earlier this year for a minor modification. What happened was back in 2016, all 3 lots were permitted with general footprints. So as the lots are sold or come into agreement, we come back to you guys with a specific house plan and a footprint and orientation so that you can see the current proposed plan and any modifications that happen to it. So like I said, this is lot C, and the 3-lot subdivision A and B were approved earlier this year with minor modifications. So the house is basically in the same spot. It's rotated a little bit. The driveway is essentially the same. There's walkways and a pool proposed. The pool's outside the buffer. It's pretty minor modification. When you take all 3 lots together, there's actually a decrease in impervious area from what was originally approved back in 2016. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
All right, thank you for that last piece of information. That's the key one. Any kind of comments on this, Leah?
Nope, he covered it all.
Okay. I will do are there any comments from the commissioners? I'll do a quick roll call just to make it official. Patrick,
No comments.
Betsy,
No comments.
Alicia,
No comments.
and John.
No comments.
The only question I had was answered about the imperviousness. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minor modification for 114 Merriam Road, Lot C.
A second?
Second.
Leah, you can pick who won that battle to the second.
I heard Patrick.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Patrick,
Yes.
Betsy,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
John.
Yes.
I am also yes, carries unanimously.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you. We need to designate an open space and recreation committee representative.
Yeah, the select board recently made that committee's charge official and just asked for everyone's, annual reevaluation of who your representative is, basically.
Okay,
So I believe that's you, Sandy, correct?
I was, and then it got shifted to
I think it
folks.
was me,
Okay.
and they haven't really done anything since I've been on it, other than send some emails about old meeting minutes that someone was looking for that they needed to have.
Okay.
As far as I can tell, there's been no meetings or discussions or anything like that.
So Leah, have they talked about, a meeting schedule or anything else?
I mean, this is the document that was circulated. I think they're looking more to start implementing the open space plan now that it's been updated.
Okay,
All this says is the committee shall meet at least annually. I don't,
that's a big lift. Okay.
yeah, right. Yeah, I don't think it'll be too bad.
Okay, so Alicia, I'll ask you are you still interested in doing this?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Unless anyone else has any overwhelming desire to, participate in
More.
this. Otherwise, Alicia, you got it.
Okay.
All right.
Can we just have a motion to make it official, please?
Absolutely. Do I have a motion for the representative for the Open Space Committee?
I'll, or go ahead.
No, I make a motion for Alicia to be the Open Space Recreation Committee representative.
Second?
I'll second.
Motion in a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Patrick,
Yes.
Betsy,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
and John.
Yes.
I am also a yes. Carries unanimously. See now, we still got, well, you got a whole minute. Anything that
So-
we can discuss in that?
We can, or you can actually jump right in because they're continuances, so they don't have to have a specific time.
Okay, great. So as long as it's 7:15, we can go? Or is it even that?
No, it doesn't matter. You can go anyway.
Okay. So we have two public hearings tonight. So starting off will be the culvert replacement. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent and application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw Protection Permit for the replacement of a culvert on Fitzpatrick Road over Cronin Brook. And who's here to speak to that?
Brian Cizurko, Town of Grafton, engineer.
Fabulous. You got the floor.
All
Or
right.
or the speaker, whichever you want to say, or the microphone.
All right. So a quick synopsis. Back in 2016, we engaged with Bayside Engineering, who did our previous non-NBIS inspections for us. Those are the bridges and culverts that the state does not do. And they created a list of priorities for the town to take care of. As you're aware, Stowe Road was #1 on the list, and Cronin Brook, Fitzpatrick Road over Cronin Brook was #2 on the list at that time. So we got a hold of TEC and had them apply for a grant from the state for the design of replacing the culvert, which was structurally deficient. And here we are today at this stage of the game, presenting in front of you today. And I pass off to Jody and Matt to present what they've come up with.
Thanks, Brian. Madam Chair, members of the commission, for the record, my name is Joe Trumpio with TEC. I am accompanied by Matthew Perry from our office, who was instrumental in the preparation of this notice of intent filing. As Brian mentioned, the town was fortunate to receive a grant to prepare engineering plans to replace a structurally deficient culvert crossing at Fitzpatrick Road over Cronin Brook. The existing structure is a 10-foot by 6.5-foot corrugated metal pipe structure. It was constructed in 1960, and as you can imagine, throughout its life cycle, has seen some wear and tear. In addition to the culvert's structural deficiencies, there's also identifiable traffic safety features, specifically the approach guardrail and the railing at the culvert crossing, which is non-compliant and substandard. So this, as Brian mentioned, was one of the key structures that was a town priority to look at and investigate for providing a replacement design. The grant itself is geared towards addressing these types of culverts that are, one, structurally deficient, and two, in need of improvements to traffic safety features. And we have addressed both of those with this proposed replacement. So instead of a corrugated metal pipe structure, we're proposing to use a larger span. We're proposing a 12-foot span, and it's a precast concrete arch. So it's a three-sided unit that sits on concrete foundation elements, and that affords the opportunity to provide a natural stream bottom through the crossing. Any of the replacement structures in Massachusetts for stream crossings are aimed to follow the stream crossing standards to the greatest extent practical. And we've done some extensive work to look at and take into consideration several alternatives to provide that to the maximum extent practical, including we also looked at, and we've been working with Leah since early spring, a couple of alternatives that we had looked to minimize and address resource area impacts associated with the approach retaining walls. If anyone's familiar with the site, there's some steep embankment grades on either side of the Fitzpatrick Road, and we're looking to soften those grades and provide a splayed wing wall on the upstream side of the culvert to make it and to improve and widen the road in that area. And in doing so, we're impacting slightly the resource area, but we're providing significant mitigation measures with wetland replication areas, which we provided details for, as well as providing compensatory flood storage for resource area. We know that the town had presented our submission to Ecotech to provide a third-party peer review. We did receive some comments back from them in early June, which required us to provide a more detailed response in terms of the stream crossing standards and our maximum extent practical analysis, a copy of which was submitted last week to Leah to justify our rationale and thought process for the replacement structure. I think we've provided a nice balance between a modest improvement to the stream crossing by eliminating a corrugated metal surface with a natural substrate through the brook itself, improve the hydraulic opening, and have also the improved span will also convey the design storm flows in accordance with Mass DOT requirements. As Brian mentioned, this grant is funded by the Commonwealth, and as such, we need to submit our designs to Mass DOT for their acceptance. We have submitted our 25% design plans, which is what you see here as part of this resource area impact plan. And Mass DOT has approved our design to date. So they've advised us to proceed with final design, and that's why we are before the commission this evening to present and initiate our permitting efforts for the project. I don't know if there's anything else to add. Matt, do you have anything else to add as it relates to the project or resource area impacts that I might have missed?
No, I think you touched on everything. Sounds good.
Okay. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to, Matt, myself, be happy to answer anything that you might have as it relates to the design.
All right, thank you. So what we'll do is go through each commissioner to see if anyone has questions. I have a couple of quick ones, but I'll go around first. John, anything?
I didn't have any specific questions, no.
Okay, Patrick?
I don't really have anything right now.
Okay, Betsy? Oh, still on mute, Betsy.
No questions.
Okay, Alicia?
Nope, no questions.
Yeah, I just have a couple of quick ones.
Sure.
You mentioned the existing condition, the CMP and the size and so forth, and you mentioned the span is now 12 feet. What's the size of the arch?
The proposed or the existing?
The proposed.
The proposed, so the span is 12 feet and the rise is 6 foot. So we're improving the openness ratio, which is one of the requirements of the stream crossing standards as well. So it will provide larger terrestrial species to pass through the culvert under low flow conditions, as opposed to having to traverse up the embankment and onto Fitzpatrick Road.
Gotcha. And then as far as hydraulically, was there any constraints at this culvert? And was there any kind of ponding upstream of this culvert? And what was the impacts of actually creating a larger culvert? I'm looking to see if there's any downstream impacts. So
yes, a great question. So we hired Bay Colony Group to serve as our hydraulics engineer, and part of their efforts was to look at that. As part of the maximum extent practical analysis, we have to demonstrate that by increasing the span, that we're not creating any downstream flooding issues or anything associated with that. And they issued a memo in support of our response to comments that essentially demonstrated that in design flow conditions, that the elevation of those design flows would be lower. So there wouldn't be any adverse effect with increased downstream waters resulting from increasing the span of the culvert.
all right, yeah, and I did see their analysis in here. I was just looking more for the rest of the commission and so
Sure.
forth, that when you start talking about maximum extent practical, there's also kind of a hydraulic engineering component of it, where if you have a constraint, you don't automatically want to double the size of the culvert because you can adversely impact downstream resource areas. So it's a balancing between that. And then obviously, the condition of these culverts, they have to be replaced, and it's just that they're done according to our regulations and the state's regulations. That's pretty much it. Any other questions from the commissioners on this? Leah, any other comments that you have on this submission or potential conditions?
I have a couple comments to add. We did receive feedback from NHESP. They said there should be no adverse impacts, so we're good to go from their side. I did also send Art their write-up about the stream crossing standards, and he said it was reasonable. He did pick out that they mentioned angular rocks and wedges and angular riprap in a couple spots for the stream bed. And he said material for the stream bed should either be left in place and undisturbed or replaced with material similar to what presently exists. Angular riprap should not be used for stream bed replacement material. So I was just going to suggest making that a condition.
Okay. And I'll go to the applicant. Is that an issue? I mean, obviously you're trying to mimic the stream basin, and you're trying to mimic the rock size and all that kind of good stuff.
Exactly. I think where our hydraulic engineer's recommendation for the angular rock is more in terms of stream bed stability for scouring and design flows. For the larger design flows, to have angular rock would provide a more stable stream bed. And one of the things that we've done in the past and for this commission's consideration is we're proposing to do a blended stream bed design of this larger stone material that's blended with the natural stream bed material, the natural stream bed substrate, so that we're kind of accomplishing two goals, that we're mimicking stream bed characteristics and at the same time providing ample scour protection for the substructure. So the new precast is going to the precast arch is going to have two concrete footings, and those footings could be subjected, if it was just natural stream bed sediment or a small particle, soil particle, that it would scour and erode under large flows. So we have to have some sort of a more robust stream bed design. And I think the angular rock is more in terms of addressing that stream bed stability. I'm happy to have an offline conversation with Aquatech as well, or even our hydraulics engineer, to kind of review that as to why we propose that. But that is one of the things that our hydraulics engineer was recommending.
Yeah, and it also, if it also depends upon your bank full width on the stream and what's in that versus what's up against your abutments and to protect that undermining. So yeah, so I get what you're saying. So Leah, we should probably craft just a condition to say that the final kind of design of that should be reviewed by Ecotech. And we understand what you're saying. And yeah, you have to protect against scour. I mean, that's a big deal. And then, but we also want to make it as much as possible within the bank full to have that natural kind of material.
Understood. Understood.
Anything else, Leah?
They are requesting a waiver from our no disturb, just because of the nature of the project. So you
It's
guys
water
will need to-
dependent. Yep.
We'll need to take a vote on that.
Okay.
And then I can run through my special conditions if you want.
Okay, we'll go through that in a moment. I am going to open it up to the public. If anyone in the public does have any questions, please put that into the chat feature. Please make sure you're addressing it to everyone. We'll monitor that, and if we see any questions, we'll call on you. In the meantime, Leo, why don't you go through your special conditions?
Okay, I have the work shall occur during the dry season. Erosion and sedimentation measures detailed in the application shall be utilized, especially floating silt fence, cofferdams, and the dewatering basin. Per NHESP, any changes to the proposed project or any additional work beyond that shown on the site plans dated for 13/21 may require an additional filing with the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife pursuant to the MESA. And then, as we discussed earlier, prior to commencement of work, the detail for the stream bed shall be solidified in conjunction with Ecotech.
Okay. Are there any of those conditions that you have any kind of issues with or thoughts on?
No, that's
Okay.
all very reasonable. Yeah.
Okay. Do you need any more description to the dry season condition?
I've always understood it to be July 1 to September 30th, unless there's something else that.
Right. It's some of it's weather dependent. If you know that, you can change that a little bit depending upon what the weather we're having, but generally, yep.
Okay.
All right. Having seen that, haven't seen anyone make any comment. So why don't we have a motion to for the waiver for work within the 25 foot.
I will make a motion to issue the waiver for work on Cronin Brook to allow them to work within the 25-foot buffer zone.
No disturb zone.
No disturb zone, sorry.
Yep, no problem. Second.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call. Patrick.
Yes.
Betsy.
Yes.
Alicia.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
I am also a yes. That passes unanimously. All right. Still see nothing from anyone in the public, so we'll continue. I'll do a quick last round for everyone. If anyone has any other questions, I'm going to go reverse order this time. John.
I have no questions.
Alicia.
No questions.
Betsy.
No questions.
And Patrick. And I'm all set on my end. Do I have a motion for approval and with the special conditions?
Sure. I will make a motion to approve the project on Fitzpatrick Road over Cronin Brook with the previously noted special conditions.
Well done. So do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll do roll call vote. Patrick.
Yes.
Betsy.
Yes.
Alicia.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
I am also a yes. It carries unanimously. Good luck.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for your
All
time.
right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Nice.
All right. Oops, sorry, I'm just going back to my sheet here. Okay. All right. Next up, pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent and application for Grafton Wetlands Protection and Stormwater Management Bylaw for 19 George Hill Road. And who's here?
Hi, good evening. Chris McClure with McClure Engineering, and I'm here on behalf of Paul and Candace Silverberg, the applicants for the property at 19 George Hill Road. We were originally introduced the project to the commission on June 15th. At that meeting, the commission voted to request the applicant agree to cover the costs associated with a peer review for the project due to the scope of the site work. The applicant agreed, and the commission contacted Gray's Engineering to perform the peer review for the NOI and the associated stormwater analysis and design. To reintroduce the commission's project, the parcel consists of approximately 10.5 acres of land. It's located in agricultural residential zoning district. It's outside of, in an area of minimal flood hazard per FEMA. Delineation of the wetlands was performed by Ecotech and located in the field by McClure's survey crew. 4 flag series that were identified on the property. So the applicant is proposing to build a single family bedroom house with the associated 12-foot wide driveway, septic system, potable well, swimming pool. And as they are avid horse enthusiasts, they are proposing to construct a horse barn, approximately 70 by 36, a 100-foot sand arena, a fenced-in paddock, and a horse run. So if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt, but I'm going to just start with the access to the property. So the driveway was designed in the footprint of the original cart path that's been in existence there. We have a couple of basins, but I'll talk about those later in the presentation here. The cart path, the driveway location is also located in the narrowest area of the wetland. So it was best case scenario for minimum impact for this project. There are 2, the driveway design involves a crossing of 2 intermittent streams. You can see them halfway up to the house to the house. The stream crossings are designed to meet the Massachusetts stream crossing standards and utilize 3-sided box culverts. The culverts span 10 feet, whereas the wetlands are approximately 8 feet in the area of the crossings, and the culverts meet the span to bank full width and the openness ratio for these designs. The applicant is proposing stormwater mitigation measures that include the construction of 6 detention stormwater basins and a subsurface infiltration basin. And the stormwater management plan for this property was designed to meet the Massachusetts stormwater standards. So if you look at the lower section of the sheet up by the horse barn, you can see we could start with like basin 5. That includes a sediment forebay and outlet control structure. It discharges the riprap towards wetland to the north side of the property. Going further down towards the house, we have an emergency turnout there in front of the barn, and we have a forebay A, which picks up the stormwater on that side of the south side of the drive access there, and that would direct the stormwater down towards the infrastructure down by the house. We have basin 4, which is to the north side below the, I guess if we can continue down towards the house, in front of the house in the garage, you can see our infiltration basin, which is going to take the roof runoff along with a split flow that is going to be picked up along the swale on the north side of the drive going up to the barn. And then we have basin 4 that has 2 sediment forebays, outlet control structures. It discharges to the Wetland Series BC. Further heading further west towards George Hill Road, we have Basin 3 with a sediment forebay outlet control structure that discharges through a treatment drain. It consists of a water quality swale down into Basin and then onward to Basin 2 with an emergency spillway towards the wetland the BC series flags. And now down towards the road with George Hill Road, we have Basin 2, which consists of a sediment forebay and an outlet control structure that discharges to Basin 1. And Basin 1 has 2 sediment forebays. That's the north side of the driveway, 2 outlet control structures to split the flow, and discharges down to the same area where wetland, the BC series would normal flow for that wetland area would migrate to. So I can get into the details of the subsurface infiltrator. They're Cultex chambers. They're all designed to to meet the infiltration requirements. We have a Barracuda water quality unit designed to remove 80% of the total suspended solids. Concrete drop inlet catch basins, basically infrastructure, stormwater infrastructure, best management practices for a project of this size and scope. We have been through a couple of revisions, back and forth comments with Graves, notably July 13th letter and a more recently an August 17th letter, where they state that we've basically met their provided the appropriate answers to their comments, with the only outstanding items, which would be waiver requests that would obviously have to come through the commission. And I can outline those waiver requests, or I can get into answering your questions, however you'd like to proceed from here.
All right, thank you. Just Leah, I'm sure you noticed there's a few neighbors that have indicated in the chat function that they are neighbors, and just to give those folks who are listening in, we will go around the conservation commissioners to see if they have any questions. Our agent will provide us with additional information. Then we'll get into some just discussions about what's going on the site, and once we finish with the commission, we'll open it up to the neighbors. I also saw that there have been several comments and information submitted in writing to the Conservation Commission. We'll also go through those, but for right now, I'm going to start with Leah as far as the status of the peer review, and is there anything outstanding?
Sure. I just need to stop sharing because otherwise I can't see you all very well.
Okay.
And all I can see is that the chat is going off, but I can't see it when I'm in that screen.
Gotcha.
So let's see. I can confirm that the peer review process did happen. The comments have been satisfied, as he mentioned, short of a few waiver requests to be discussed. There's also, we did go back and forth a little bit about quantifying the impacts of shading from the culverts. They have done that now, so they quantified the amount of bank that's going to receive shading from the culvert. I had one question for the commission. Does land underwater need to be quantified for that impact as well? I mean, I know it's not the kind of thing that you don't propose that disturbance and then replace that, so to speak.
Correct. And these are intermittent streams, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a little bit tough to do with intermittent streams because you don't have a mean high water. So definitely bank is critical, but I'm not sure how you would quantify land underwater.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
They did already request a waiver before, talking about the ones that came up in the Graves process for work proposed in the no disturb zone, just like on the last hearing due to the nature of the proposal.
Right.
Beyond those items, I just had the public comment letters that had come in, and then the couple of new waiver requests we'll need to talk about. But that's what I have for right now.
Okay, so we'll start with just kind of doing a roll call of the commissioners if they have any questions. I have several questions, but we'll start. Alicia, do you have any questions?
I do not have any questions right now.
Okay, John.
No, but it's not the couple things, it sounds like we're going to chat about some of the potential waiver items coming up. So no questions.
Okay, Patrick.
Same, nothing at this time. But
Okay, and Betsy.
Done right now.
Okay, so some of the questions I have are just some things I didn't see that was specifically addressed in the peer review, and just some different ones. And one is that the plans show a pool, and just kind of a general question, what kind of pool it is, how is it cleaned, where does the discharge go to, and obviously it's within the setback to the wetlands, the buffer zone to the wetlands. So there's just just understanding what that system is and how and where would the water be discharged to when you clean the pool. That's one question. I don't know if you have the answer to that.
I don't. I'd have to defer to the homeowner, the applicant.
Okay, it's the big thing is not to either send chlorinated or wastewater into the wetlands. That's the key
Sure.
part.
Yes.
The next one was as far as the barn and the kind of what's shown as the arena. My guess is those are for horses.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes. They're equestrian uses. Yes.
So again, some of the questions I have to do with the O&M for the barn in the arena, and more specifically, a portion of the arena is in the 100-foot setback. So again, it's more about there's a maintenance that you're going to do with horses. There's no issue with that. We just don't want anything dumped into the resource areas, and would like to know what is the plan for maintenance of the facilities for the horses and so forth, and just
Understood.
because of the proximity to the wetlands.
Sure.
Okay, so that's kind of my couple of broad ones, and then as far as, well, I think we do need to have some other discussions. As far as the peer review, you've been responding to them, but there's several other things that came up. So why don't we take, for the first step, is to get into the waivers. Once we're done with kind of the description of the waivers, I would like to open it up to the public. And when I do that, we'll kind of go through with some of the written comments and questions submitted to the commission. So Leah, what are the waivers that we'll be looking at for this?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'll just pull up the best document to look at,
Sure.
and we can go through them. Okay, so we have comment 3 through the Graves review. It's talking about the slopes for the basins. So we have the design engineer responded that a waiver is being requested because of the existing topography of the site. Sheet C5 was revised to demonstrate 2-to-1 exterior slopes, interior 3-to-1 slopes, and 1-to-1 riprap slopes at cut slopes up gradient of the basins. The maximum allowed under our regulations is 3-to-1.
Okay.
You want me to keep going or stop there for a second?
Why don't we get them all first, and then
Okay.
we can kind of figure if any of them are grouped together or whatever.
Sure. So comment 4, we actually don't need to do a formal waiver request and vote, I believe, because We previously changed our regulations to say that you only need basin fencing if it's deemed necessary by the commission, the applicant, or DPW. So our regulations no longer require the fence. There's flexibility in there. We
Gotcha.
can talk about that further as well. And then comment 5 is talking about the basin proximity to the nearest residence. So the impoundment of detention basin 2 is down gradient of one of the nearby houses by 95 feet. And our regulations have a minimum of 100.
Okay.
And then just as I mentioned earlier, the 25-foot no disturb one as well.
And that's for just the crossing of the intermittent streams?
I believe so. Can you correct me if I'm wrong, Chris?
Yes, no, it's for the crossings. Yes.
Okay. All right. So basically looking at 3 different waivers. Yeah, on the slopes, we'll get into that at the basins. The 95 to 100. Yeah, we'll discuss that a little bit. And then 25 foot for the crossing and so forth. Just a quick question. How wide is the driveway?
The driveway is 12 feet wide.
All right, thank you. So why don't we get to Leah as far as the comments submitted by the neighbors. Can you just bring those up just so that we can make them part of the record?
Sure. So I'll just go in chronological order. Since the last time we met on this hearing, the first one that came in was from Wes Hero from 18 George Hill Road. I don't know if somebody wants to read it into the record, or would you like me to?
So yeah, so actually we should read it into the record. I'll try to just go through this.
You want me to read them, Nancy, Sandy, so that you don't have to read so much?
I would love that. Thank you very much, Alicia.
Okay. Hi, Leah. Sorry I forgot this was happening tomorrow. Let me preface this by saying I met the owner, Paul, of 19 George Hill Road, and he seems like a great guy. I look forward to having them as neighbors. I in no way am trying to stand in the way of their dream house, but I do have some concerns. I am located at 18 George Hill Road and directly across the street from the proposed building site, and am at the most risk for anything that may go wrong over there. I'm right at the bottom of the hill and already take the brunt of all the washout and runoff for the entire hill. This has been getting worse and worse every year as the road deteriorates further. There are no culverts that run along the sides of the road to divert the water. It just flows down and collects in front of my house. 10 years ago, this was not an issue. Now I get a pond in my front yard when it rains, and every piece of sand and gravel washout from the street collects in front of my driveway. At one point, a couple years ago, the sides of the road literally washed away, and the town had to put a small berm in front of my house over the ditch to help corral it back into the street. This sort of worked for a while. I've never had any groundwater in my basement, and am concerned that if something goes wrong or is not planned correctly, that this will begin happening, and I will be stuck with a big problem that would not be covered by insurance. In addition, if the water volume in the stream that comes off 19 George Hill Road and travels under the street and into my backyard increases, it will not be able to handle it and then flood me from behind. Even now, it's flooding the road and going over the street instead of below it. Anyway, I guess what I'm getting at is the condition of the road and the drainage is so bad already that I'm nervous about what it will be post-construction. I'm sure that the homes below me towards Merriam Road share the same sentiment. I can only hope that an independent party is reviewing this to protect this project to ensure that water will be diverted properly so that my house and others will not do not float away. I'm sure there is a way to accomplish this so they get their beautiful dream home and ours gets to stay beautiful. Thanks, 18 George Hill Road.
Thank you. Leah, the next one, that's obviously the photo. And Leah, that's a town road. And the town's responsible for what's going on with the drainage there. So do understand that, yeah, there's definitely issues going on there.
So The next one is from Shauna Cardenas of, let's see, 8 George Hill Road.
Dear Leah and the Town of Grafton Conservation Commission, I am writing to express my continued concern for the proposed project at 19 George Hill Road. I urge the commission from abstain from approaching this project today, and it's dated 7/13, until further review can be done. I also request that the commission forward all comments and photos to Graves Engineering to be included in their independent review of the design plans. I'm noting specifically those made by West Hero, but also any others that may yet come in. In the months since the last Concom meeting, we've experienced significant rainfall. There has been increased localized flooding on the street and on neighbors' property. How will the stormwater flow impact neighboring properties and the local watershed? It is my sincere concern that these calculations for stormwater management, while looking great on paper, give everyone a false sense of hope and ease. I realize that these are top-notch professional engineering designs created with the best of the industry knowledge, and no doubt it will also be executed with similar expertise and care. However, this is an especially challenging lot to build, and there will be extreme disruption to the site, a steeply sloped, completely wooded parcel with a number of wetlands and streams. Many acres of trees in the natural slope and terrain will be erased to be replaced by acres of asphalt, roof and shingles, lawn, and other cleared space. We must have a rigorous independent review of all design and stormwater plans to ensure that the current property owners will not be paying the price for this project. Furthermore, this area is located within an area of critical environmental concern. The Misco Brook, for which ACEC area is named, is at the bottom of the hill, located at lot number 19. Only a tiny percentage of land in Massachusetts carries such a significant designation. Grafton is blessed with uniquely and extremely vulnerable natural assets and habitat. From the screenshot below, the reasons for the special ACEC designation are because of high quality surface and groundwater, diverse and unfragmented wildlife habitats, and public and private open space. The distinguishing characteristics of these sub-watersheds are that they are located at the headwaters of their respective watersheds, provide crucial inputs of high-quality surface water to downstream waters and communities, and share a large expanse of unfragmented and diverse wildlife habitats in public and private open spaces, extending acres, drainage divides, and municipal borders. The area provides important surface water and groundwater inputs to public drinking water supplies. The Misco Brook watershed contains a large, unique, and valuable wetlands complex. The Great Meadow system and the water quality in both Misco and Warren Brooks supports prized native brook trout populations.
You don't have to read all of this. This is just reference.
Yeah, materials.
Yep.
There are at least 18 vernal pools in Grafton, but the state that believes that there are potentially 100 sites. Vernal pools are extremely unique habitats and tricky to document. They are typically dry by the middle of the summer. Can we be sure that there are no vernal pools in this parcel? The survey was done in June 2018, when any potential vernal pool sites would likely be dry. The screenshot below is from Grafton Open Space and Recreation Plan from 2007. Note the following quote. In Grafton, there is a core habitat area located in the vicinity of George Hill Road, and a large area surrounding the site has been identified as a supporting natural landscape, meaning that the surrounding natural area contributes to the health and well-being of the identified core habitat. In 2007 Open Space and Recreation Plan, some of Grafton's specific goals and objectives were listed to include Goal 1, preserving and enhancing Grafton's water resources, and Goal 2, protect and conserve Grafton's land resources. Stewardship of our portion of the ACEC here in Grafton is a shared responsibility by all citizens. The Conservation Commission has the power to make decisions that affect whether these resources are preserved or not. As a resident of Grafton and property owner on George Hill, and as a concerned global citizen, I urge the Commission to act in the best interest of all parties, considering all relevant information, including designs and stormwater management plans, but also Grafton's established desire for conservation and preservation of our most valuable resources, as we've defined that as a community in our open space and recreation plan. In closing, I want to note that I wish the best for Paul and Candy Silverberg, the owners of 19 George Hill Road, and the applicants of this project. They deserve to build their dream home here in Grafton. My objections are solely related to the impact of their project on the proposed location, both environmentally to the wetlands and watershed, and to existing properties already battling stormwater flooding and erosion.
We have another one from today, from Mariah Cause. I forget her address. I think it might be 13 George Hill Road.
Yes, 13, she says, in the comments. Dear Commissioners, I wanted to express my continued and growing concern with the project at 19 George Hill Road, especially as it pertains to recent updates with other issues in town. I really appreciate your attention and time. I've also copied my original comments email that I had sent in June that were received as garbled when I sent them before. I would like to request that the Commission firmly enforce the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Section 5A, that states, therefore, alteration and disturbance is prohibited within the first 25 feet measured horizontally outward from the watershed resource boundary of the following resource areas that are set out in the bylaw. Within 100 feet of any freshwater wetland, vegetative wetland, marsh, wet meadow, bog, or swamp, within 100 feet of bank, beach, or flat, any lake, river, pond, stream, or estuary, within 100 feet of any lake, river, pond, stream, or estuary, any land under said waters, or within 100 feet of any land subject to flooding or inundation by groundwater, surface water, tidal action, or storm flowage. Section 2 of Article 25 of the General Wetlands Protection Bylaw also states that no person shall remove, fill, degrade, build upon, or alter the following resource areas within 100 feet of any freshwater wetland, vegetative wetland, marsh, wet meadow, bog, or swamp, within 100 feet of any bank, beach, or flat, any lake, river, pond, stream, or estuary, within 100 feet of any lake, river, pond, stream, or estuary, any land under said waters, or within 100 feet of any land subject to flooding or inundation by groundwater, surface water, tidal action, or stormwater flowage. In such a sensitive and critical environmental area, the requirements and bylaws should be strictly enforced. I don't think it's appropriate to grant waivers in such sensitive areas of environmental concern that could have such repercussions to the environment, watershed, and wetlands, as well as other properties, the deteriorating roads and yards. The waiver was requested in a letter from Peter Engel on June 7th. See attached. While only 30% of acreage is developed, the development is all concentrated at the bottom of the runoff course, so none of the uphill 70% of the property provides mitigation or treatment of water flow. The development also runs fully from north to south, effectively making the catch basins the only way to mitigate contaminated runoff will occur. Any mitigation, of contaminated runoff will occur. This is a lot to expect from a man-made and man-maintained solutions. I see it as of great interest to the Conservation Committee to preserve the wooded areas on the 19 Hill George Road property, not just because of the drainage and runoff issues, which I am deeply concerned about, but also because of the intrinsic value of these trees and the habitat they provide in this sensitive area. I am also very concerned that it appears the trees and forest will be essentially clear cut in the areas of north to south boundary lines. See reference image attached, highlighted in the red boxes. This overdevelopment of a watershed is incompatible with an ACEC and will not provide a desired equine facility. This will also impact the privacy and views from my home, which I know may not be where your wheelhouse, but as the abutter, I would like to know where to address these types of issues. I am not sure how it is possible that there can be construction right up to the property line on the north and south boundaries, noted with red arrows. It seems to be encroaching on minimum setbacks. Concerns about the disrepair and deteriorating state of George Hill Road. Do we want to go through these, even though they're not technically under our jurisdiction, or?
How much is left in here? Yeah, yes, just go through them. Yes.
Okay. On August 10th, the select board addressed the deterioration, disrepair, and lack of maintenance on George Hill Road as it stands now, as prompted by this letter, and a letter is referenced. The select board brought up the ongoing concerns with drainage and runoff from the hill causing many issues. They also discussed the prohibitive costs of maintaining and repairing the road as it stands. My question is, how will the town afford to maintain and repair the road if this project causes more damage, more drainage and runoff issues, if they are not sure how to fund the existing dire need for repairs as it stands? See also Wesley Hero's letter and photographs about the state of George Hill Road. Impact on Silver Lake. Silver Lake was closed early this year because of an environmental issue with algae. Conservation, Recreation, Health, and Planning Board, as well as the Select Board, should now have a heightened interest to protect the Misco Brook watershed more than ever. The long-term impacts of this could have implications beyond just our neighborhood, but the town on a larger scale. Manure and horse barn. The 6-horse barn will likely at some point house outside horses, as in Borders, which would turn it into a business, the planning board's area of interest. But more horses implies more manure and cleared, disturbed land in any paddocks or pastures, and therefore more contaminants into the runoff and wetlands. What provision is there for the town to monitor and expect the continued compliance and maintenance of the catch basins, which will become silted and overflow, becoming an easily imagined possibility? The intermittent streams on this hillside can and do become a torrent, which can run over pastures, catching the manure and bringing it down quickly to George Hill Road and directly into Misco Brook and Silver Lake. And finally, below is my email that I sent in June that didn't arrive in the right format. I've tried to group together the ones most relevant to your department, and I would love if you could let me know where my other questions, if you know, where to direct my other questions, if you know. So she goes back to state her name and that she's at 13 George Hill Road. She said these were reviewed in June already in the chat feature. So do we need to go through these again? We did read through everything in June.
Okay, so then no, we do not need to go through those.
Perfect.
Okay, we have one more from Shauna. Again, this one received today. She's from 8 George Hill Road.
Okay. Hello, I'm submitting the following directly to Leah by email this afternoon. This may be a duplicate. I wanted to be sure it was received by the commission prior to the meeting tonight. Thanks. Dear Leah and the Conservation Commission, I am writing to express my continued concern for the proposed project at 19 George Hill Road. I respectfully request that the commission defer any decision-making on this project till after making a full and complete review of all available information, including comments and concerns from neighboring properties. There's a growing number of alarmed neighbors, as well as many outstanding questions that must be answered. The stakes are high. We should proceed more slowly. Furthermore, I request Graves Engineering review the plans again to ensure that the issues that were noted have indeed been addressed, as they declined to comment on the project's compliance with 310 CMR 10, the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act regulations. I also request that the commission seek input from the state regarding this project, as well as independent review by a firm which could comment as to the compliance to the regulations. It's the commission's express duty to ensure compliance with the Wetlands Protection Act. We need a more informed, unbiased, professional review before approval of this project should be granted. Regarding the Graves review, I have a number of questions. Point 4, will the Conservation Commission require fencing around the detention basins? This would be unsightly and not in keeping with the scenic road designation. How deep will the water in these basins potentially be? Do they present drowning hazards if not fenced? Point 5, the applicant seeks a waiver to construct a detention basin with an impoundment closer than 100 feet to another residence. This waiver should not be granted in this case due to potential from failure in a large stormfall event and the consequences that would impact the other property owners. Point 6, the rainfall value was too low on the original plan. According to McClure, it was corrected. How much additional rainfall can be expected? Graves should review the numbers and that were numbers that were updated as a result of this change to ensure the design can handle the newly calculated values. Is a 100-year event a good yardstick anymore? We've seen major rainfalls here and around the globe recently that have created tremendous flooding in places we don't normally see with issues. Example, Germany. In such a sensitive ecological environment and on a hillside, the increased frequency and volume of heavy rains should be factored. Perhaps a 500-year event or greater should be used as the measure in this case. Point 8. They state the amount of disturbance to be plus or minus 2.3 acres. This doesn't seem to be an accurate estimate. It's far too low. The house, barn, paddocks, yard, and pool will occupy more than 2 acres alone, plus all the added square footage for the long driveway, the detention basins, swales, etc. How many acres of trees will be removed? They gave the estimate in cubic yards, which is a measure of the trees once cut down. This is not an accurate, useful measure of disturbance. There is a percentage of disturbance above which the federal government must be notified. What is that percentage? How much of the actual wetlands will be disturbed, including the intermittent streams, and where is the replication of that lost habitat recreated elsewhere on the plans? Because of these issues, I request a full independent review of the disturbance estimate and if there are percentage of disturbance triggers federal notification or oversight. I insist that this project be held to this regulation. Point 18. The project was not reviewed for compliance with Massachusetts 310 CMR 10 Wetlands Protection Act regulations. This is a significant gap in the Graves review. It is the express duty of the Conservation Commission to ensure all projects are compliant with these regulations. The project must not be allowed to proceed without an independent review of all project plans with respect to these regulations. One step further would be to involve the state ACEC governing bodies and get their review or opinion on the project. Another question that I have for the commission, as referenced above in point 8, I want to call it out here again. How much of the actual wetlands will be disturbed, including the culverting of the intermittent streams? Where is their replication of that lost disturbance created on these plans? There should be equal recreation of wetlands for every disturbed square foot. I don't see it. Also to note that the applicants failed to notify all abutters as required, and there are fuzzy property lines. The project should not be allowed to proceed until all abutters have had ample chance to review the plans and until the questionable property lines have been sorted out. The Town of Upton's Conservation Commission has not been notified of these proposed plans yet, as they share a property line. There's also no recorded deed for the part of property in Upton or any property taxes collected from the new or previous owners, even though the designs show knowledge of acreage over the town line.
All right, Leah, anything else as far as, written comments and questions?
From ahead of time, no, but maybe from the chat.
Okay.
So there is someone on the chat from Upton Open Space.
Okay,
Yes.
so let's go through this in sort of an orderly process, because there's a lot here to unpack, obviously, and a lot to discuss. So the first thing is to talk about the Grafton Conservation Commission, what we have authority over, and some of the questions in there that don't specifically apply to us. And some of them, and I'm not going to remember them all, but I'll hit the highlights. So anything about use. So this is a single family home. It is being presented as a single family home. It is not being presented as a boarding for horses or anything else. So my first question to the applicant is, are you applying for any business, permits to run, a boarding stable?
I believe Paul, the applicant is on the line here, and he could answer that. He's told me in the past that no, it's just for their personal use.
Okay.
Sandy, some of these were addressed in the June meeting. I don't know if we can reference that. Some of these questions we went through it
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we spent a while on that one and we talked about the potential for boarding, and I thought Paul spoke up at the last meeting or
Okay.
the June meeting saying that no, it was not, but
Okay, and again, I'm just kind of going through it, and to basically, one is to say that, as a Conservation Commission, we do not, that's not part of our purview, and that would be, with the building inspector and other town departments. I mean, that we don't, it would be different. The other part of that is when you talk about both the Wetlands Protection Act and whether it's a single family home and a single lot, you have to look into the regulations where there are certain exceptions for single family lots versus larger areas and so forth. Whether it's subdivisions or businesses or things like that. So we're reviewing this as a single family home. I brought up earlier some concerns I had with, the horse barn and so forth, but that's more maintenance and how things are controlled and making sure there's not impacts with the resource areas and so forth. So, as far as, we do hire Graves engineer to give us an independent, review. And so there was back and forth on that. One of the questions was about rainfall. I mean, I think there was one comment about how wet. I mean, July was the wettest July in history in Central Mass. I mean, when I say in history, as far as recorded data for the rainfall amount in July, we beat it this past July. It was extremely wet. There was also another comment, should we be using a 500-year storm? We, as a Conservation Commission, volunteers here, we are required to, follow the regulations, and that's both state and local. The current regulations under the state require us to review the 2, 10, and 100-year storms. The local bylaw, actually under the state, they reference the rainfall data as what is called technical paper 40. The town of Grafton actually requires a higher level, which is the Cornell numbers. And so that's different than the state. The state is in the process of updating their regulations. We cannot go and use those numbers until they're updated. We have to use what the regulations are. Obviously, we're looking to protect the wetland resources and all the functions of the wetland resources, whether it's flood protections, habitat, etc. So, that's our concern. The only thing is we can't go beyond what the regulations say. We cannot be arbitrary in our enforcement of our own regulations in the town of Grafton, the bylaw and its regulations, and we cannot be arbitrary in the regulations from the state. So, but we are here to enforce those. So I just want to give a setting of what we're responsible to do and what we look for. And to those passionate kind of pleas about, telling us we have to do things. All of us on this commission are volunteers. We all invested in our civic duty and our responsibilities. So I'm here to assure you that we're going to do, what we are responsible for, and that's what we do. And I appreciate the number of abutters here to a voice. I also appreciate the fact that you sent this information ahead of time in written format. It helps us a lot. And we will give you the opportunity for anyone who wants to speak, we'll actually elevate you so you can speak and you're not just typing, because it becomes a little bit cumbersome for you to continually just to type. So we will go through that process. We will give you the time to do it. I feel very strongly this is your opportunity to bring up your questions, and we will respond to them to the best of our knowledge and our understanding of what the regulations are. We do use both on the wetland delineation side, on some of the environmental, we use independent peer reviewers. We do that so we can have that independent voice, and those folks, and like as far as Graves Engineers has been reviewing plans for the Grafton Conservation for quite a time. They understand our local bylaw, which tends to be more restrictive than the Wetlands Protection Act's regulations. So I just want to give a background that we go through this, not to mention, Leah's role in making sure that we get the information we need and to provide the commissioners with reports and so forth, just so that we are better informed, so that we can make a balanced and, and appropriate decisions and recommendations and conditions, which I think this particular project, which is a little unusual for our residents to go through this level of peer review. So I'll let you know right up front, we understand that this is not a typical development of a single family home, that there is a lot else going on here. And there are a lot of resource areas. So I just wanted to kind of set the stage with that. I think moving forward, and I understand, in the June meeting, there was a lot of information that was already presented. So we do want to go through the process of having abutters be able to, ask questions, receive some responses from the applicant, and go through an orderly way. So, Leah, so as far as any particular suggestions on the process to, go through the abutters so they can, either simply say, yes, I submitted my questions and we can go through them, or if they have any additional questions.
So I actually kind of need to interject with maybe something that's going to put a pause on this. The point that has been made about the abutters being notified.
That is, yes, yep.
So I went back and I was just double checking in the background. We did get a complete list on the Grafton side, and we got proof of all those folks on the Grafton side being notified. However, the Upton part stands true. I don't have proof that anyone over that town line was notified. Okay. So if that happened, we need that proof. If it didn't happen, I'm not sure where that leaves us right now. I know there is a gentleman on here from Upton. I could perhaps promote him to a panelist. He can maybe speak to how many parcels might be on the other side of the town line. I don't have terrific access on GIS to anything over the town line.
So let's first just go to the applicant and make sure that he did notification. That's state regulations. It doesn't matter which town you're in. So Chris, as far as notification to folks in Upton.
I don't have my abutters. I do have the Grafton abutters list in my packet here, but I don't have my whole file in front of me. So I will have to, I'll look into that and get you the answer as soon as I can.
Okay, so Leah, if you could promote the person who is from Upton and whether they're an abutter or not, and whether they get notified.
This is Bill Taylor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm with the Upton Open Space Committee, and I suspect that the only abutter in Upton would be the town-owned Warren Brook Conservation Area.
Okay.
And I'm not aware that from the Upton side that we were ever notified. Certainly nothing made it to the Conservation Commission.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
I was just going to say that I was able to ask one of the commissioners to look at the plans. And I think from his perspective, there's nothing from Upton's perspective that we're particularly concerned about. All that water is running down the hill away from us. So I'm not sure that we don't have any reason to ask that the hearing be extended so that we can do any more review.
I appreciate your input and the fact that you took the time to actually attend the meeting and give us that information. Yeah, Leah, I am with you as far as the fact that if we don't have proper notification, we can't really continue the hearing. And yes, we've got the notifications within Grafton, but we don't have the notifications within Upton. So
I am, I don't know if it's helpful at all, but I do have, I found, looking at Upton now, sorry if the screen's flashing for you guys, it's flashing for me.
it actually looks pretty good, actually.
Okay, so this must be that conservation area he was just talking about?
Yep.
And if we compare back to Grafton, 19 is here.
Yep.
So might be, no, it's not that one. Hang on. Yeah, does that make it this parcel right
Yep.
here?
Yeah, look at the tail on the end. Yes.
So then that wouldn't be the only abutter within 300 feet. It would at least hit this one, this parcel here.
Right. Yeah, and even if
possibly that
it's
one.
even if it's 300 feet for the local, but it would be no question 100 feet for the state, and there's definitely multiple parcels for that.
Yeah, I believe both those are extensions of Grafton parcels, but you'll need to confirm that.
Right. So what you're saying is that they were notified because part of the parcel is in Grafton.
I believe that's the case, but again, you'll have to confirm that.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of the crux. We don't want to continue to have testimony if we're missing any abutters that we're not notified. That's the only issue, because we'll have to go through everything again. So I understand everyone, all the abutters are here, and I want to hear what they have to say. But if there's abutters missing, we would need to have all that testimony again. Correct, Leah? You can't, it's due process.
Right, exactly.
Could we refer them to a recorded Zoom?
Not for the public. Not for appeals and things like that. Yeah, I mean, due process is just one of those things where you got to do that part, and the notification has to be done ahead of time, so that, and the question is, we don't know, it could have been done, but we just don't have confirmation of how the parcels are and whether all those parcels don't go in there, or whether it's just the open space that didn't get notified and the other parcels are continuations and so forth. So that's the issue.
So I think at this point, we either need confirmation from the applicant, or I can certainly follow up with assessors for both towns, see what the full list looks like, and I can consult with town council. But I think if anyone is missing and we don't get confirmation that they indeed weren't missing, I think this is kind of null and void.
Right. We don't want to waste everyone's time. And then, so I would go to the applicant. I mean, this is not really what I had planned on doing, but, and this is just because that due process is critical to making sure that everything is done correctly. And I would suggest to you that we continue the hearing so we can confirm everything, so that we know that all the testimony we take is basically part of the process. And that if there is someone that is missing from the notification, then we just have to let you know that that has to be notified. We have to go through that whole process again. You're going to have to go through the presentation again if we are missing someone, even if that person decides not to come. It's just we want to make sure notification is correct. So, and that's more than anything else. If for some reason this particular project gets appealed, we want to make sure that as a Conservation Commission, we have done everything that we were supposed to do. So.
I understand. I mean, obviously, yeah, I wasn't, I just didn't have the information at my fingertips, and for me to run off and try to pull it out of my files, it's probably just better to continue it and ensure
Okay.
that we have all the ducks in a row, and then we can move on from here.
Okay. So, so one of the things that I just want to make sure, because we do have several of the abutters on here, what I want to do is ask anyone who is an abutter that if they understand this conversation, the fact that there was a question brought up about a notification, which is part of the due process and part of the permitting process. And what it is that we don't have confirmation of certain parcels that potentially are in Upton that meet the criteria for a notification. They weren't notified. So what we're looking to do is have a continuance so that one, we either find out and confirm that those abutters were notified, or two, understand that they weren't notified, and then we would have to basically, although the work that's been done with peer reviews doesn't change, but the public hearing process will have to start again. So, so if you are on, line here and the butters, if you have any questions specifically about this, I know there's a difference between Upton and Grafton maps and the property line. We will have to, I mean, that's part of it. One thing that we're talking about right now is notification. So I just want to make sure the abutters understand what's happening. And what we would do is, continue the public hearing to our next meeting, which is when, Leah?
September 21.
September 21st. And prior to that, we will find out if full notification has happened. But we're continuing to a date certain so everyone knows. If there hasn't been full notification, we'll discuss it and people will have to be notified again. So if folks in the chat want to just, let me know that you understand what's going on. I'm not trying not to take your testimony and not take, have you ask questions. I'm trying to make sure that we're following due process. So if anyone has any questions around that, please let me know. And happy to answer it. Hopefully it's fairly straightforward. And
we
yeah.
have not reached the deadline to advertise for the September 21 meeting either. So if we find that some folks were missing and then we're looking to restart the process, we could get a brand new ad in the paper to make the September 21 meeting and have it be a brand new opened hearing anyway.
Correct.
So either way, we'd be looking at September 21.
Yeah. So the comment is yes, either way, we'd continue to September, and whether we would be starting from scratch or continuing what we already are in the middle of doing. And so I would urge that. I appreciate, the comments and stuff, the written comments, and I would urge you to come back in September. So, and then Chris, how does that sound?
So, Sandra, if I could, I just reviewed what I have on file for the abutters, and the property adjacent is contiguous to the property owner in Grafton, to the north of the property. If we could pull that map up again.
So did you actually notify the town of Upton with the open space too?
We did not notify, I don't have any record of the notification for the town for the open
Okay.
space, but that there would only be 2 affected properties within 300 feet of this property. One is actually is the owner from Grafton, is the adjacent property owner.
Okay, that's
And
fine.
And the other one would have been relative to Mr. Taylor's, the conservation land that Mr. Taylor just spoke on behalf of.
Right. Which is, yeah, and you know as well as I do, it's still someone who hasn't been
Sure.
notified.
Right.
Yep. So. So then again, it's up to you to find out if you actually did the
Sure.
notification to Upton or we can try to do a reset for the September, you said September 21st, Leah,
Correct.
September 21st. And again, it would be at 7:15.
If it's a brand new hearing, I can't guarantee it will be 7:15. We've had other applications come in.
Okay.
It just depends what order we review in. But
Right.
either way, they will be at September 21. We'll either be rebooting and starting testimony all over again, or we'll be continuing from where we are with confirmation that
Okay.
everyone was notified.
All right. So again, to the abutters, so no matter what happens, we'll be back in September. There is enough time, as Leah said, that we could get notifications out. And if you have a question, you want to know, what we get from the applicant, please feel free to reach out to the office and contact Leah about that. And obviously, if you look at how we post our agendas, you'll see in there, that would be the language in the agenda would actually indicate what we're doing, whether it's a continuance or a new hearing. So. Any other comments from the other commissioners about this specifically? I tend to be doing most of the talking. So Patrick, anything to add?
No, I mean, I guess not, given everything, we'll just discuss at the next
Okay.
meeting.
Betsy?
No, Leah answered my question because I was wondering whether notification to abutters, if it hadn't happened, could be happening subsequent to this meeting and prior to September 21st. So that was really my only question in terms of this. My second actually question is, so everything we've heard so far from the abutters, which is already on record, would have to be re-reviewed if in fact the abutters in Upton were not notified, and would have to reopen the hearings?
So yeah, that's a good question. And because, we read everything into record tonight, what we would look to do is we would probably check with the abutters to say, is this still your, comments and questions? And we could then, reference our previous, this hearing as when it was read in. So but we still want to make it official. Go ahead, Patrick.
Given there's several comments and questions in the chat over the past hour or so, do those need to be captured for the record?
So they are captured as far as the documents here, as far as Leah, you keep a track of the comments that come in?
In the chat, yes.
Yeah, so we keep that anyways. But yes, so if we continue and the notification is fine, we have all of those documented for the record. So, John, any other questions?
No, I didn't have anything more, but it looks like Sean has put more in the chat.
Right. Yeah, I'm kind of looking at that. But Alicia, anything else?
Nope, I am good.
Yep. So as far as, as far as continuing it, and as far as questions about the property line and whether it ends at Grafton Upton line, we'll get clarification. My understanding is the abutters, the notification is based on the plan submitted to us. So the 300 feet go beyond the town line, but we don't do notification related to property in another town. So that would have to be done through Upton if there was any work being done in Upton. So it's a good question. We definitely will make sure that our understanding of how that works and how the butter notification works when there is a town line there. But Leah, we just are concerned with our town, our work in this town, and what the notification needs for this town. But we can confirm that.
I'm not quite sure I follow your question.
So my understanding of the question is that if the parcel extends into Upton, right, then are there additional people within 300 feet of the land in Upton? And we don't have jurisdiction over that.
So we, all the butters within 300 feet of the parcel need to be notified, whether they're in Grafton or they're in Upton, they need to have been notified. And we need proof that they were notified.
Correct.
And then it's up to them if they want to come and speak, or if they don't have anything to offer, then that's fine. But
True. Yeah.
That process still needs to have happened.
Correct.
Regardless of the town line, it's just within 300 feet of the parcel.
Right. Yeah, and we can get into some of the details just to double check that notification process. Because yeah, there is notification of the parcel. It's a definition of what that parcel is. And but we just want to make sure that whatever we get, it's appropriate. So yeah, so bottom line is that we'll be continuing to September 21st to basically review and confirm what the notification is, and to make sure all of our assumptions around notification has happened. We'll be in contact with the applicant, and if there is a notification missing, it will be up to the applicant to make those notifications prior to the submission date and basically the ad that's required for the September 21st hearing. And if there is re-notification, everyone's going to get notified. If there is just a single person, we'll have to look at that, or if there was, or if everyone was notified, then we continue the hearing on the 21st. So. Sorry for kind of the prolonged discussion around this. It's just something we want to make sure we're making sure that we get it right.
Understood.
Yeah. All right.
Very good.
So, so the applicant has requested a continuation. It looks like everyone at least understands, as far as the abutters go, will be on September 21st in one way or the other. Do I have a motion to continue this hearing to September 21st?
I make a motion to continue the hearing for 19 George Hill Road to the meeting on September 21st.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do a roll call. Alicia?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Betsy?
Yes.
I am also a yes, it carries. So for those folks who are in attendance, please come back on the 21st. As far as the applicant goes, you have an understanding of what you need to kind of check, and please be in contact with Leah so that we can communicate what's going on.
Sure thing. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Okay, thanks. All right. So Leah, as far as that was the only other public hearing, correct?
Correct.
Okay. We do have other action items.
Yep. You want me to just kick it off?
Please do.
All right. So, as you guys know, we own the open space called Hennessy off of Adams Road. I'm going to pull up an aerial for you to look at. So we are also looking at, can you guys see this?
Yep.
So we own Hennessy out back here. This is conservation land. The way people access it right now is through 46 Adams, which is where the old barn is. We got a capital request approved to fund the demolition of this barn because it's a public safety concern at this point. And so going forward, we're looking to get this front piece, 46 Adams, transferred from just generic town of Grafton, AKA the select board, over to Concom specifically so that this can officially be, you know, where folks park and access the trail, the trailhead, things like that. So the question I have for you guys is I've been talking to DPW about what that demolition process is going to look like. They wanted to know what we want the parcel or the area where the barn is no longer going to be, what we want that to look like. So I've talked to them. We've been on the site. There is fairly adequate area for people to park even ahead of where the barn even is now. Yep. So we could just keep the parking to this front space and then we could have this loamed and seated, or we could make the parking even larger, in which case the two options would be asphalt millings from, you know, pavement jobs or gravel. So I just wanted to know how much parking you want and if you have a preference of material.
Does anyone else have any kind of comments on how much parking?
Do we know how full the parking gets?
When I've been there, I've never seen people need additional space beyond where they go now in front of the barn. I've been out there a decent amount. I wouldn't say with any kind of regularity, but I haven't seen it be an issue with what we have now.
Only ever seen a few, 3 or 4 cars at most.
Yeah,
we could always, we could always start with a smaller area and we could enlarge it going forward if we find that, you know, use increases with the new trailhead and access and everything.
So go ahead, Alicia.
My question is if we seed it, is it going to add cost in terms of us having to maintain and keep it mowed and keep it like that? I mean, is it more cost effective long-term to put gravel there?
We do the mowing in-house through the DPW anyway, so it's not a cost.
Okay. Then I would say if we don't need additional parking, then if we knock it down, I would prefer to seed it.
I'd say, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead, Badger.
I was just going to comment. I mean, it might make sense to plan for slightly larger than we think it might need because it's going to be, you know, while we're doing it, it's like hard to go back and do it again. Future, not to turn the whole thing into a parking lot, but, you know, plan for a moderate amount of a little extra space.
So I think one of the key things is make sure it's graded and that it's got a base of gravel. And then if you put loam and seed over that, then if we had to go back and switch it to gravel, it would be fairly easy to do. Typically when you have like a structure like that, you take it out, they just fill in the, I don't know if there is even a basement on here, the cellar hole. It should be relatively flat anyway. So I would say the only thing is to say, yeah, make sure that whether if it's asphalt or the gravel, it's just, to have it generally level, and then you can put loam and seed over it. And then if we ever have to expand it, it's all set up for that expansion.
So my comment there was when I do a lot of master planning with my clients, you have to plan for, like Patrick was saying, additional capacity. But so I think that we should make it a little bit bigger than what it's currently used because the attention of the project will draw potentially more people to use it. If we were to plant or if we were to seed it, I would think that we should seed it with something that like a clover or something that might not be necessary to mow constantly, like a grass, which may allow more of the grass to be used as parking area. Like if you planted a clover or something that was low height growth, minimum maintenance, and then maybe our DPW folks wouldn't have to mow it especially if we have a rainy July, every week or something to make sure it's usable. So.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. I was thinking of low maintenance meadow type of, something that might be mowed once a year or something, but nothing that, you could do a ground cover or something, but not like a lawn type of thing.
When I hear
Minimal.
loam and seed, I normally think of lawns.
Right.
That's where I was going with the clover. I agree, Sandy, some type of a natural low grow cover.
Yep.
I have an unrelated to parking question. Is there any opportunity to extend the trailhead through this parcel rather than having it accessed through the abutter there?
Yeah, I already started that process with DPW. We're working on rerouting it so that you don't have to feel like you're going in that person's yard anymore.
Nice.
So basically it's right about here is where the new trailhead's gonna be. Come out the back and you follow along this side of that tree line rather than this other side of the tree line.
Oh, that's nice.
Great.
Any other questions, Leah, on this?
No, it sounds like the consensus is planned for some additional parking at this time, and the rest we can cede, but
Yep.
Expand it a little bit.
Does it get used in the winter at all? Like, do they have to plow it or maintain it, or do they just let it go in the winter?
Actually, not sure the answer to that.
Do we do anything? We don't maintain anything for the winter, do we?
Not to my knowledge, unless it's just already on their list or something.
Okay. I don't know the answer to that, but yeah. Okay.
There's a question in the chat. Someone asked if we'll be discussing 52 Elmwood Street today. I don't see that on here.
So I can give a little context, and I can allow him to talk if that's okay with you guys.
Works for me. It's not a public hearing, but if someone wants to talk, that's no problem.
So this was the address we had talked about back and forth a few times about the fencing that was put up, and then there were reports of wildlife travel, but the fencing where the wildlife was out of our jurisdiction. So I had gone back and forth a couple times with this homeowner, just asking the questions that we were posing. Because it was out of our jurisdiction, we couldn't require action to be taken, but you guys had me ask a few things like, would they be willing to raise a portion of the fence? Would they be willing to take down a portion of the fence? I didn't get favorable answers to those things, and I know we felt like it's outside of our jurisdiction, so all we could do was ask. So I thought at that point there was no further discussion to have, but he's here now. I'll let him chime in if he has another question.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. We just didn't know where things stood. We don't feel at all that we're really impact, like even if it was within your jurisdiction, we don't feel we're impacting wildlife. We still get everything here: coyotes, deer,
mink,
raccoons, mink. The fence is it's like a wide field fence with 6-inch squares, basically. And a lot of things can go right through it. Plenty of things go over it.
The background while we put it up. Do you want to share that?
Yeah. So, I mean, we basically put this up because we had a lot of trespassing going on between neighbors up top and the train tracks. We've had scenarios where people like ride their four-wheelers down the train tracks and into our property. And then we also have a large dog that we've been able to let out and not have issues with this fence. So that's kind of how everything happened. Yeah, our neighbors were dumping a lot of trash on our property, and when we talked to the police, they're the ones that told us to put up a fence. So.
Okay. And again, like as Leah just mentioned, is that, we had some butters come into us but it wasn't our jurisdiction. So we asked, and from our perspective, once we asked and, responded, there wasn't a lot else that we felt we should do because it's not our jurisdiction. I mean, that's the bottom line, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, but so I actually have videos, but my phone is broken of the wildlife that's still going on. But my phone broke the last week. So if you guys need at any point to see that, I'm willing to send you my face-to-face with coyotes or my trail cameras, that I have on my phone. Once I get my phone back next week, it actually totally broke. So I don't know how much I have left on it, but I could do something like that too.
We appreciate that, and if we think that might be helpful, or if anyone comes back to us, we can reach out to you. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very much.
Thanks, Patrick. All right, where were we?
We have another item on George Hill Road. We had 9 George Hill Road send us notice that they want to take a portion of their parcel out of the Chapter 61 program.
Okay.
Basically to add it to their house lot. So it's another lot similar to 19 that we were looking at earlier, long and skinny. They're looking to carve off the lot for the house, take it out of the Chapter 61 program. So we just need to chime in on whether or not we're interested in the pursuit of this portion of the lot or not.
Okay, and does it abut anything? Is there anything here that we should be looking at?
No, it does not abut any open space.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. I will find the map for you guys. So this is 9 George Hill. Nice funky shape. It abuts other residences.
Yeah.
Town line again with Upton, so.
Gotcha.
But I mean, the piece they want to take out is in the middle, so it's not like over here. Is
Gotcha.
what they want to unenroll. They're only looking to unenroll where the house is.
Okay. I mean, I have, for such a parcel like that, I don't see any value of pursuing that, but that's my take on it. Anyone else have anything else on that particular request? Okay. What's up next?
We need a formal vote that we're recommending the select board not pursue that parcel.
Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that the select board not pursue the land at 9 George Hill Road.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call real quick. John,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
Betsy.
Yes.
I'm a yes also.
Okay, I'm gonna skip over one thing really quick, and I'm gonna do 3 Old Sawmill Road next. So this is a lot that's in the Water Supply Protection Overlay District. So you guys might remember this comes up every now and then. If a lot in that district wants to exceed the 25% or 5,000 square feet of impervious surface that they are allowed, then the building inspector asks us and engineering for their advice or comments to weigh in on whether or not to allow them to exceed that amount of impervious surface. And what we look at to compensate is, are they doing something to recharge groundwater? So we have this proposal here. They're looking to add a pool and a sizable patio in the back, but to compensate, they're taking this section of their roof runoff and sending it to an infiltration chamber in the front yard. So we just need to give feedback to building. My suggestion was to tell building that this approach is reasonable and we don't have any issues, but you guys can chime in.
Sounds good. I mean, I'm fine with that as a proposal. Alicia,
Sounds reasonable to me.
John,
Yep, agreed. Sounds reasonable.
Patrick,
That looks good.
and Betsy.
I'm fine with it.
Okay. And do we need a motion on that, Leah, just to make that recommendation?
I don't think we usually do on those.
Okay, cool.
And the last thing we have is 74 Carroll Road, which Betsy was kind enough to go scope that out for me. So this is a report we got from a neighbor about guinea hens that he's housing. The neighbor said he thought the coop was in the wetlands, and also the waste, gets deposited in the wetlands. Betsy went and checked it out, and you're more than welcome to fill in any blanks. But this is the most important photo, I thought, out of what she took to show that it does indeed appear to be in some wetlands. And I did check the regulations. Animal waste deposited in wetlands is considered an alteration under the regulations. So, as you know, the regulations are written, no one shall fill, dredge, alter resource areas. So I feel like this is a potential candidate for an enforcement order, but I'll let Betsy fill in any blanks.
Yeah, no, that sums it up. I think, it's sort of like at the Hatfields and the McCoys it's turned into, so it's a very contentious thing. So the only area that I could focus on was where are the guinea hens housed. And so it was pretty obvious to me that, they're sitting in something that could be deemed wetlands. The other parts of the argument are not within our
jurisdiction.
I think this coop was originally attached to the part of the back of their house, and so the building inspector was involved. Animal control said they couldn't do anything. The guinea hens were getting loose and leaving waste on the neighbor's back deck, but then he created this coop and put it in the back of his yard, which this is within the bounds of his property line. And so the birds are no longer disturbing the neighbor, other than the fact that he's noting that they're probably violating conservation Wetland Protection Act laws.
I mean, do we know when they clean their coop where they're putting the debris?
Absolutely not. And the like I said, it's a presumption that because there's been no contact and conversation between the Conservation Commission and the property owner who owns the guinea hens. I've only had the conversation with the Mr. Roy, who's the abutting neighbor, who claims that that's where the waste goes, but I have no evidence or photos.
So are we able to do anything if we don't actually know? I mean, I have some chickens, and when we clean out their coop, we scoop everything into a wheelbarrow, and some of it goes to compost. And, if we don't know specifically that when they're cleaning their coop, they're dumping it in the wetlands, are we able to issue an enforcement order?
Isn't it because the coop is in the wetlands?
I think that was the question. That was the point, right?
Yeah, I think you can assume just from the coops are usually open bottoms, so they're gonna have waste coming out, period.
Not if you're in the new age chicken school, because like my coop, for example, is we put all sand in it at the bottom, so then we just can scoop it. I'm just playing devil's advocate that there.
I agree, and I wrote that in my report that I had no evidence that or proof that the waste was being disposed of there, just about where the birds were being housed, and even almost got them rehomed. Because the property dispute is like, it's like who could piss off who more. And so the owner of the guinea hen says, I don't even want them anymore. I want to get them a new home, but I don't know where to send them. So when I met with Mr. Roy, I said, oh, George Pichette up the street keeps birds. You know, I'm sure he'd take them. And he took the initiative to go talk to George. George said he'd take the guinea hens. He went back, spoke to the neighbor, said, I have a home for your birds. And then he never followed through. So, like I said, keeping it within the scope of the Conservation Commission and not a border dispute is kind of touchy when you're having the conversation. So I would just say, is there a way to have a warning letter to ensure that they're not disposing of waste within the wetlands, or to inform them of Conservation and Wetland Protection Act law?
I mean, Leah, routinely sends a letter as a notification that something has come in front of us, and and here's the potential issues if, that type of thing. I guess, Leah, do you think there's, based on that photo, sufficient evidence to say that is a resource area?
Normally, I would probably run that question by Art.
Okay.
I mean, you can see mud, you could see some standing water. I'm not an expert in plant identification, though.
Yeah, when I took a first look at it, it didn't look like it was, it just because it's wet, it doesn't make it wetland.
Yes.
And I tend to look at the overstory and see what kind of trees they are, and so I can't tell you. It looked like an area that could be a transitional area, and again, I would be with Leah that I can't really tell. And we're also, just because July was the wettest month in history.
This is actually true. And in fact, my lens on my camera kept on steaming up because it was so humid that day. I couldn't even see if I was focusing the lens, because you couldn't see through anything. It was that wet and humid. So and I have parts of my property that are dry, except for these exceptional summers. I've been here for over 30 years, and the other 25 years they're dry. So you have a good point there. But I think if there was an informational letter sent saying, just advising you that there have been concerns and that these are the rules, and leave it at that. I mean, really, there is nothing else we could do, I don't think.
Unless we absolutely know that it's a resource area. It's not on GIS or anything, Leah.
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, I mean, that gives us, information, specific information that someone has looked at aerial to say that this is probably a wetlands.
That's that piece of, when you go down to Carroll Road towards Countryside Drive, that backs up to that fielded area that you can see from the Mass Pike, that goes up to those, in fact, those two new houses that were just built on North Street. Do you know where I'm talking about? There's that swath of land that on the Carroll Road side of the Mass Pike goes straight out, and that property kind of abuts that. If you walk straight back, that's where you would end up.
Right.
So it's actually jogging my memory a little bit. There's wetlands out further in the back, but of course this is just an estimate, so we don't.
Right.
We don't know.
Yeah, and when you look at the aerial photo of it, those wetlands are very, very observable on the aerial. And then there's a lot of wooded area, which you can't really tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely tell from that aerial what's going on. But it's hard to say, it's hard to even say if it's the triangle, exactly where in the triangle that is.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I wasn't willing to go through poison ivy to find out.
No. I did not respond to that email because I don't live that far from this. I'm actually on the other side of the pike, but
yeah,
I saw Carroll.
Literally, it's down the street. I'm on the corner of Bicknell and North Street, so it was an easy.
Yeah, no problem. I think I'm wondering. I mean, I don't think it's jurisdictional, and we don't have evidence that it is. But I'm just wondering a courtesy letter, just say that we got this,
Yeah.
complaint, and that's it. I mean, and, and just indicate we have no evidence that it is a wetlands.
Yeah.
So,
And I also advised Mr. Roy that I didn't even know if any of this was in the scope. I was there to collect information and share it. So I didn't, trying to manage his expectations.
yes. Yeah.
And I think at this point, because the birds are not running loose and leaving waste on his property, it's a little bit less of an issue.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Anything else, Leah?
That's all I have.
Anyone else have anything?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'm all that. I think we have 4 other seconds on that. So, since you said it, Alicia,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Betsy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Leah, I'm asking, I'm including you in
Yes.
Jan.
We have been here since 8:30 in the morning for our late night. So we want to go home now.
So I just have a question, because the next meeting is going to get crazy with this.
Words.
What?
Lots of words.
Are we allowed legally to have like a special meeting to just discuss one thing? Because there is no doubt in my mind that it's going to be at least an hour to 2 hours just to go over. So many people are going to show up every time. They have even more questions and concerns.
So the short answer to that is, we can have as long as it's, publicized and posted, we can have a meeting whenever.
Because I don't really want like a 4.5 hour meeting.
I don't think you can focus well and be as attentive when you know that you've got so much before you and after you. But the other part of that is my question was going to be, is there a way to really sort of categorize and group all the questions that have come in? Because some of them are redundant. Some of them were brought up in June. Some of them were just different flavors of sort of the same question. And so if there's a way for us to sort of come up almost with an FAQ specifically regarding the things that have come up regarding the concerns.
So what we've done in the past is to say, say you have a concern about stormwater, is to tell the other people, is to say, we understand you're here. We want to hear your voice. Unless it's a different concern, i.e. something else to do with stormwater, say that I agree with Betsy that I'm concerned about this, but you don't have to repeat everything. We can certainly ask them to try to do it that way. So we can get on the record that 8 people all have the same concern, but we don't have to listen to that concern by 8 people.
8 times. No. Yeah. And so I'm just thinking, because there's little things that slip through the cracks. Someone asked about, what about snow? What about this or that? And something's going to get missed because there's so much there. And who said words? They're buried in a lot of words.
Right.
That in preparation for that meeting, if those concerns could be categorized into, storm runoff versus, the fencing issue,
we can do that. We can do that on the staff level and try to summarize things. The reason it got overwhelming tonight is sort of twofold. One is because it's like, do we need to read the whole thing into the public record is one question. And
I've heard different opinions, and I just don't want this to get appealed and then have us.
No, I think you're doing the due diligence of that is a smart thing to do. It's just very tedious. And to Alicia's point, if you have a long agenda and this is going to take up a big part of it, let's just make it about that. And then the full attention can be on just that.
Right.
So the only problem is we just told them all 9/21.
We have to have it on 9/21.
So we can't.
Right.
We can't.
Yeah, it's
So
already
they-
a date certain, but I
So
can tell,
hopefully people are on vacation and they won't have anything else to put.
yeah, it's gonna
I'm
go,
gonna be
it's
on
gonna
vacation
go
on
another hearing.
9/21.
Yeah.
So
It-
what-
yeah, it
well-
will go another hearing. I can't see it ending. Yeah,
What we can do gearing up for 9/21 is take everything we've received so far from abutters and make a summary sheet. We can even post it on the project page online, so folks can take a look at it and only submit something if it's not already covered in that list. The only other unknown is they always do, verbal vomit in the chat, so that's kind of just,
All right.
we gotta take that as it comes.
Yep.
Well, we have a meeting a few weeks after 9/21, then we go back to 2 a month. So can we just try to keep anything that's unnecessary that can wait until October off the 9/21 agenda?
I already have 3 applications and we're not even near the deadline for 9/21 yet, so
we're gonna get more just
Oh.
because it's the time of year it is.
I know.
it's not stopping, sorry.
If it was an in-person meeting, I'd offer to buy everybody coffee of their choice.
So I
Yeah,
mean,
coffee's
that's,
not gonna do this one.
I'll
Yeah.
need a beer after the meeting.
well, there is some efficiency if we go in person. It just,
I was just going to say, we went back in person on Lake Quinsigamon Commission, and there was a hearty, I was telling Alicia about it, there was definitely it's recorded on the Shrewsbury media. There was 20 people there yelling at us about jet skis, and the cops had to kick people out of the meeting.
yeah.
So
It
Yeah, my
depends.
worry is that if this gets in person, is it gonna get like heated verbally?
I mean, it's always going to be, it's how, it's really having to be very deliberate in how the meetings run and stuff. It's not my favorite, but,
Could
yeah,
we do it like the way that we would do it in person? So rather than just say everyone vomit whatever you want in the chat, because last time there was an incredible amount in the chat and I was trying to go through and sort out, can we say that we will roll call people to ask questions in the chat so that we can say, okay, we've addressed the concerns that were sent in previously. Now, Shauna, if you have any questions, you may now type them in the chat. Okay.
Honestly, skip the typing. I'll just promote them to be able to talk.
I think that's
just like at the podium.
I think that's better.
And then we do
Yeah.
one person at a time talk about all your stuff when you're promoted and then you're gone and that's it. I'm just, because otherwise, like the last time we met about this, it was just the chat was blowing up until we literally said, guys, we got to stop.
Yeah.
they were pasting in full emails that they had already sent to
Yeah.
Leah.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it was
But I wasn't getting to them quick enough because I was reading through hundreds of chats.
Yeah.
Okay.
a lot of repetition too.
Yeah, the other part of that is and I'd have to look it up again, but we definitely as a commission have control over what we hear and how much, and we can, meter kind of some of that information that comes in. And what I mean by that is we don't have to hear the same thing 30 times. So there are definitely some other things that we can do to kind of control just how much is discussed.
Yeah, I think we need to figure out a plan before the next meeting to herd it, control it, and keep it straightforward and to the point, and not like they're gonna ruin my views, or we've addressed the issue that they're not gonna have a commercial business run out of there. It's gonna be their own personal horses. A lot of this stuff has been covered. So maybe almost read through the minutes from the June meeting and what was covered to start so we don't have to repeat that stuff.
It all depends upon if we're starting from scratch or not.
Right. If we're starting.
So, sorry, Betsy.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. No, what I was going to say was, so after Jet Ski Gate at Lake Quinsigamon Commission, there was changes that enacted in our committee that involved additional rules and pieces to be added that said we would only take people that signed in advance. So I don't know if there's a way to do that through
Can't do
Zoom
that.
or
Open meeting law can't do that.
so signed in when they got there to the meeting is what it
That's
was.
fine.
But
Okay.
So, but we'd also limit the number of people. So we'd had a certain amount of time set aside, and then they each got a certain allotment of that time. And I think there was like a max of 6 or 7 people is what Shrewsbury and Lake Quincy enacted.
Yeah, I don't know that you can do that because an open meeting law means you can't control how many people are going to speak. But I would say that if they officially sign in and we instruct them that we're going to, do it in this order, in this way, so it doesn't become a free-for-all in the chat. And then someone later saying, you didn't address my issue, which was, the 15th chat amongst 30, then it just, because so much of this is redundant. And this is only my second meeting and I'm feeling that way.
So, and it is, and when you're in person, the best kind of scenarios when they have an attorney and that attorney speaks for 20 people. That's the best one because then you have a single voice.
Right.
So there's certain things like that we can control, but we cannot deny anyone from saying something.
Right.
Can we limit the time though, is a question that I would ask, because if somebody can get up there and filibuster for half an hour or something, like I'm pretty sure that whatever changed in the Lake Quincy Commission went before town council in like they reviewed this as a result of this meeting and basically said to control the crowd in this meeting and make it efficient, safe, because that was a concern. That's why they started to enact these rules with limits on time and an order of how people were going to speak and whatever. So,
and to be honest, I don't know the answer to that. And I would, and so you can limit from people repeating the same thing over and over again. Someone can't filibuster. It's we do have more control over that.
If we're not starting over, if we are allowed to continue with the 2 meetings that we've had.
Yep.
And we post a list of all the previously discussed and answered questions on the project site, are we allowed to say that question has already been addressed? Please refer to the document, or do we have to readdress it?
We shouldn't have to readdress it. And to be honest, I'm gonna go look up the open meeting law, because we do control the process, and we're not expected to be there to listen to 25 people say the exact same thing.
Yeah,
it's just not needed. It doesn't give us any additional kind of testimony from people, and but I just want to make sure we don't
break any
whenever I have a situation like this, I think about what's going to happen when it gets appealed.
Yeah.
And so
you have to have your due diligence down, but that's why I was saying, like, what Alicia is basically saying was that was my idea of having an FAQ. So you had what has all been answered. These were the major categories and questions, and these are the answers to them. So it's sitting in some public place for people to see, so that when you're coming forth again and we're restarting the process or starting over, then they should only be bringing to the table or into the chat things that not have been previously asked. Like the answer was, I was on vacation and I couldn't write a letter to me, is not, that doesn't work.
Yeah. And again, I would double check, because if it's a new meeting, we're stuck.
I know.
If it's not, I think we have a lot more flexibility. I think it's important just to know people that we're listening to them, but also make it very clear what we can and cannot do. This is a single family house. We don't, it's not like it's
I know. I just feel like, the Southern saying, bless your heart. And, we wish you great endeavors in your new home, but it's never going to get built as long as we're concerned. Oh.
Yeah. I think it's still their property. And as far as I know, Leah, they're not doing anything that requires any other permits, right? It's a single family home. It meets the zoning.
To my knowledge, we've ticked every box we can.
Gotcha.
In my opinion, if we hadn't encountered this Upton thing, which I apologize for my role in the oversight of that. But I didn't have anything left as outstanding that
Right.
we need to do or check on, or
They've dotted their i's and crossed their t's, in other words.
yeah, I mean, people can not like it and they can say it's in an ACEC, but you need to read, well, what does regulations say you can or cannot do in an ACEC? You can build a single family house.
Right.
There's provisions for what they're doing. They're not looking to do anything that we would have a leg to stand on to deny it.
Right.
Yeah, I
Correct.
just think controlling the questions and then the re-asking and then the badgering and the things that have literally nothing to do with us whatsoever, like the view off from your windows at your house.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you know,
so
those
I
things
don't,
we can control. That I don't think
Yes.
is a huge issue.
at least that might cut down on 20 minutes of the 2 hours that I'm anticipating this lasting. Just
so even if we have to go to a redo, I don't think we're as stuck as you might think, because even if it's a reopening, they'll still send in their letters. Jan and I can still summarize them into, a streamlined document, and we can still have this hearing run as, please don't put your stuff in the chat unless you don't have the capability to talk. And if you have the capability to talk, I'll promote them one at a time, and it'll be like a dialogue rather than reading a novel.
right. And they should just put they would like to speak in the chat, not something this long.
Yeah.
They can
They
just
like-
click raise your hand, and I can
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah.
Just tell them to raise their hand and you will promote them and they will have their turn to speak.
Yeah.
Ask all their questions when they're promoted, because we need to streamline this meeting because some of us like to go to bed.
I know. I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. I'm done.
I don't even want to tell you how many hours I've been on a phone today.
Yeah. So,
Um,
so I think everybody agrees that keeping it tight and organized and streamlined, that if we can keep it that way. I'm so new to this. I don't know what I can and cannot say. So I don't want to.
I mean, I have to go look up stuff because
Yeah.
I've taken classes and stuff, but it's, this type of dialogue doesn't happen all the time. Doesn't happen that
No.
often.
Can
Well,
we?
it's not George Hill Road either. I mean, it doesn't, like I said, I'm saying this as a 32-year resident. You know when things are going to get hot and when they're not, just based on where they are.
Can we post something also on this project page stating things that are not in our jurisdiction that will not be, like, can we say commercial use of a property or approval for commercial use is not within our jurisdiction? Like certain things that have come up at the last 2 times we discussed it that are not something that we could handle anyway.
Yeah.
When we're including that list of questions, can we also state, we appreciate you, but please don't ask us about these things because we can't talk
Yeah.
about them anyway.
And you can't
Yeah.
predict. I mean, I think in the June meeting, if I recall correctly, it was how do we know that they won't ever request a business permit to operate? Well,
It doesn't matter. It
doesn't
doesn't matter to
matter.
us. We
It's
can
not-
only review what's in front of us.
that's correct.
That's an easy one. That's,
But yeah, there's been so many questions about the commercial use of the property and storage of this on the property and how many horses are they going to take? That's not within our
None of our
realm of
business,
decision.
actually.
Yeah.
it's not in front of us.
No.
That's not what's being proposed. That's not what we're reviewing. And
Right.
that's it. I mean, we can't live in the world of what ifs. We can't even address those. So
Right. So that's what, just if we could, Lee,
I don't think doing it ahead of time is going to make people
Is gonna
not
make a
ask.
difference.
Yeah. You just have to cut them off quickly and just tell them that, that's not in our purview. It doesn't matter. We review what's in front of us.
we need a digital bouncer for this meeting.
That's why I was just thinking in person might be people other than what John just went through with the Lake Quinsigamond. That people must be really upset about jet skis, but sometimes in person people aren't as aggressive. And
Well, that's what I'm saying. People are much more free with their typed words than they are with their.
Yep.
I mean, that's just. They're just not. I bet you half as many people would actually speak publicly.
correct. And I just think it's a different dynamic. It's easier to control in some ways.
Yeah. And
If
I
we
think it might
change
be
to
less
in-person-
contentious, actually, in some ways, because I think connecting with a human voice and looking at typed words, to me, is just not always the friendliest way, because you don't get tone in the typed words, and you might get it better hearing it.
You might get it in the snarky tone of the person that reads it.
Well, that could be.
If we switch to in-person, are we then committed to return to in-person all the time?
No, but the problem is if it's out for notification, we can't
Can't
switch.
do it.
Okay.
You
As
can't.
I need to sign off. Have a good night.
All right.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything that we can do ahead of time is we should look to try to do it. And I think maybe just I'll check about open meeting law, what we can and cannot do.
And I think the raising the hand and promoting them to speak might be better than the chat.
I agree.
I totally agree on that one. No question about it. I totally agree. A roll call, even if they don't raise their hand, if we had 7 or so people, we
Honestly,
just need to ask.
honestly, the chat is like being in a room and not raising your hand, in a sense, right? There's no order to it.
Yeah.
So it becomes just very disorganized and unwieldy.
Yeah. No, I am all for whatever we can do to give people the opportunity, but in a very controlled way.
Got it.
So, all right. So I'd like to just welcome Jan.
Jan,
to-
welcome.
And tell you that
Thank you.
this is not our typical meeting. Trust us. I don't know if it's Betsy or it's Jan or something's going on here. I mean,
It's not me.
I mean, this is how June was. You weren't there, and I
Right.
had to read every single thing in chat.
It was.
that
It
stinks.
was.
Yep.
Yeah.
This was quite the introduction, let me say that.
Well, see, now you got your feet wet, and you're only one meeting behind me. So.
At least it didn't last till 11 o'clock, because I think my first meeting went until 11 o'clock at night.
Oof. Yep.
Because we had a
I'm
stretch
ready.
there when I first started where it was so late every time.
Yeah. We're not usually that late, but yeah. Okay.
It was with Highfields, I think.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
All right. I think we've all had enough.
Okay. Thank you,
Thanks.
everybody. Thank you, Leah, for all your work. And
Thank
let me
you,
know if
guys.
you want me to go on any more site visits. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, I appreciate the help. That week was crazy.
No, I'm anytime, honestly. I'm my own boss, so I can kind of do what I want.
That's nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Take care. Welcome, Jan. Good night.
Hi.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nice to meet you
Have a good
all.
night.
Yeah. Bye-bye.